Thanks, Rick. Appreciate being here today. As Mr. Collins said, we graduated from high school together. I guess we were lucky enough at the time. We were the largest group to be drafted in Ponca City, Oklahoma. It will stay the largest group that was ever drafted. At the time the Vietnam War was going on, the selective service was in effect at that time. You could either be drafted or you could volunteer to join one of the armed services. Today it's an all-volunteer Army. Selective service, you still have to sign up for at 18. But back when Fred and I were doing it, you got a number. When your number came up, it didn't matter where you were or what you were doing. You were going to go into one of the services. Like Fred said, we got drafted with Oklahoma City, we were at Fort Bliss, Texas. We came back to Fort Hood, Texas, which is right around Clean, Texas, Coppers Cove, a few of those places in there. We went through basic training there. We went through advanced individual training there. Fred then split off, and I went to the first cab. It was an armored division. We rode on APCs, which are armored personnel carriers. We had a group with us called the Scouts. They rode on them. We had a mortar track, which was an APC with a mortar in it. It was called a four-deuce mortar. And we had tanks. I was the same MOS, which means what you were doing in the service. I was an 11 Bravo, just like Mr. Collins. He said a grunt or a ground pounder. That means that we carried a gun and we were in the infantry. Where we were at, we used to ride. We would clear what was known as Route 1 in Vietnam. And after we did that, then we would go on patrols. We didn't ride our APCs when we went on patrols. We did those on foot. I was in the same area, or pretty close to the same area that Mr. Collins was. We ended up in the Cambodian border. We'd been there about 2 months, and we'd gone out onto the coast. There was an island called Cigar Island, and we were pinned down by fire from the NBA, which was the North Vietnamese Army, and the Viet Cong all night long. We survived that night by having artillery coming from inland to the coast and having destroyers and battleships from the sea out there ringing us with fire all night long. We thought we were clear. The next morning we got up, we got around, there was just 16 of us. We got up, we got around, we started walking off, and we heard a rifle go off. And everybody was wondering what was going on. When they looked around, I was on the ground. I was just like Mr. Collins. I got shot. It had ricocheted and knocked me, hit me in the leg. From there, I was taken to Quinh Nhon, which is a town in Vietnam. From there, I went to the Philippines. Then I went to an area to a camp called Camp Sama in Japan. It was where the physical reconditioning attack was and where I had my surgery to repair my leg. Thought I was going to get to come home, didn't get to do that because something happened at that time. As Mr. Collins said, the Tet Offensive started. Tet Offensive is the new year for the Vietnamese. It was a very, very strong offensive. They had the NBA, they had the VC that were coming from the north that was trying to take over South Vietnam at that time. Well, my number got called again. I came back out in January. When I left the physical reconditioning detachment, I went right back to the same group. I was in the 1st of the 1st Cavalry. I was in the Americal Division, which was in the Northern I Corps, which is the northern part of Vietnam. We were under the 3rd MAC, which was the Marine Amphibious Forces, and we fought with the Marines and we fought with the Navy up there. After the Tet Offensive was over, everything kind of settled down, and I was probably in the same area that Mr. Collins was in because we were heading out to the Cambodian and Laotian border. One night we were circled up and we were ready. We had our APCs and our tanks and everything, and we started to become getting overrun. We had mortars and we had rockets. I'm a little luckier than Mr. Collins. That night I received shrapnel in my head, down my arm, and perforated my eardrum. I got my second purple heart, but it was a purple heart with an opening cluster, just like Mr. Collins. At that point in time, we were given the decision. You could either leave that area, combat area, go to the rear area, or take the third purple heart, and you had to go to the rear area. Well, I'm no dummy. I figured out I was going to go to the rear area. So I went back to a village in an area called Chu Lai, which is in the northern province of Vietnam. And from there, waited and came home, like Mr. Collins did. I came home in August of '68. From there, I came home. I went to college. I graduated from OSU and started teaching. About 2 years at McKinley, taught 5 years right here at Garfield. About 6th grade, taught science, and then I became principal at Roosevelt for 12 years and was principal at Lincoln for 12 years. Had a very fine assistant principal at that time. I think you might know her. She's sitting down over there. I retired 5 years ago, and like I said, I've had a good life. Wouldn't change any of it. I appreciate you having me here today. Thank you.
Old man Wrigley lived in that White House down the street where I grew up. Mama used to tell me over things. We struck a friendship up. I spent a few long summers out on his old boy swing. Says he was in the war, but in the Navy. Lost his wife, lost his baby. I broke down and asked him one time, how'd you keep him going crazy? He said, I'll see my wife and son in just a little while. I asked him what he meant when he looked at me and smiled and said, I raised my hands, bowed my head. I'm finding more and more truth in the words written in red. They tell me that there's more to life, more than I can see. I believe. Late hours, all at college, talking to mom on the phone one night, getting caught up on all the gossip, the ins and outs of a small town life. She said, oh, by the way, son, old man Wrigley's died. Later on that night, I lay there thinking back. I thought about a couple long, long summers. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. If there was ever anybody deserve to take me to the other side, it'll be that sweet old man who looked me in the eye and said, I raised my hands, bow my head. I'm finding more and more truth in the words written in red. They tell me that there's more to life, more than I can see. I can't quote the book, the chapter or the verse. You can't tell me it all ends in a slow ride hers. You know I'm more and more convinced the longer that I live. Yeah, this can't be, no, this can't be, no, this can't be all it is. When I raise my hand, bow my head, I'm finding more and more truth in the words written in red. They tell me that there's more to life, more than I can see. I believe. believe. Oh, I believe. Oh, I believe. Oh, I believe. Thank you.
I heard one of you ask Mr. Collins, are you still a veteran? Let me tell you, we all should be a veteran in our heart today. But we definitely need to say thank you so much to these gentlemen. They've risked their life for us, and we wouldn't be here today without them. Would you give them one more really big round? He's going back there Monday. You're going to be in our hearts, okay?